Apparently, the Kardashian debacle was the final straw for Meredith Maines. That's the latest reporting from page 6 in the New York Post that when it came to her resignation, apparently it happened around the time of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle demanding that the Kardashians delete their photos from Instagram. They drag everyone who works with them down with them. And I imagine Meredith was just there trying to save her own reputation in the industry. So, guys, we are going to get into this as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's final week of 2025 reveals what a failure this year has been.
There's a moment in every toxic professional relationship where you see the writing on the wall, where you realize no amount of skill, experience, or dedication is going to fix what's fundamentally broken. For Meredith Maines, that moment apparently came in the form of a deleted Instagram photo. Not just any photo. A photo that encapsulated everything dysfunctional about working for Harry and Meghan Markle. They attended the Kardashian party willingly. They posed for photos enthusiastically. They basked in the celebrity proximity they claimed to despise. And then, after the photos were posted, they demanded they be deleted. And Meredith Maines, their chief communications officer, had to be the one to make that humiliating call to the Kardashian team. According to page 6, this wasn't just an unfortunate incident. This was the final straw. The breaking point after 11 months of trying to manage the unmanageable, spin the unspinnable, and somehow maintain professional credibility while representing two people who seem determined to destroy their own reputation with every decision they make. Maines is now the 11th senior staffer to walk away from Harry and Meghan. 11. And her departure came at the same time their entire operation shrank down to just 2 employees. 2. From what was supposed to be a thriving charitable foundation and media empire to a skeleton crew barely keeping the lights on. So let's talk about what really happened. Let's examine the Kardashian debacle that reportedly pushed Maines over the edge. And let's ask the question that nobody around Harry and Meghan seems willing to confront. How many professionals have to quit before you realize the problem isn't them? The Kardashian party incident is almost too perfectly on brand for Harry and Meghan. It contains every element of their dysfunction compressed into one humiliating episode. Here's what happened. Harry and Meghan attended a star-studded event hosted by the Kardashians. This wasn't some ambush situation where paparazzi caught them off guard. This was an invitation they accepted. An event they chose to attend. A party where they knew full well there would be cameras, social media posts, and celebrity photos. They showed up. They socialized. Harry was photographed staring at Kris Jenner in what can only be described as an uncomfortable way. Meghan posed for photos with Kim Kardashian. They looked thrilled to be there, delighted to be mixing with Hollywood royalty, exactly the kind of celebrity proximity they've been chasing since leaving actual royalty behind. And then the photos started appearing on Instagram. Kris Jenner posted carousel images from the party, including shots with Harry and Meghan. Kim Kardashian did the same. Standard social media behavior for a celebrity event. Everyone posts photos. Everyone tags everyone. It's how these circles operate. Except Harry and Meghan apparently didn't like seeing themselves in those photos. Despite attending the party willingly, despite posing for the pictures willingly, despite knowing how social media works, they suddenly decided this was unacceptable. And they demanded the Kardashians delete the photos. Now here's where it gets really interesting. The initial excuse from Harry and Meghan's camp was that they had checked a box saying no to having their photos shared on social media. A consent form, they claimed, that they'd specifically declined. The Kardashians must have ignored their explicit wishes. The Kardashian team responded simply. There was no consent form. No checkbox. No formal agreement about photo sharing. Harry and Meghan made that up. They got caught in a verifiable lie about something that could be easily disproven, because apparently lying about small, checkable facts is just standard operating procedure at this point. So let's pause and think about what Meredith Maines had to deal with here.
Harry comes out and gives this interview in which he not only says he doesn't know how long the king has left to live.
I don't know how much longer my father has. He won't speak to me because of this security stuff.
Which the royal family was like, hey, let's not talk about the king's mortality because you don't know, specifically because the king has refused to speak to you since February 2024. Now that is over a year ago.
She's a professional communications officer. Her job is to manage her client's public image, navigate media relationships, and maintain professional partnerships. And her clients just attended a celebrity party, posed for photos, then demanded those photos be deleted, then lied about having declined consent in the first place. How do you manage that? How do you call the Kardashian team, who are extremely media savvy and have their own powerful PR operation, and explain that your clients want photos deleted from an event they chose to attend? How do you maintain professional credibility when your clients are making you look foolish with easily disprovable lies? The answer is you can't. And at some point, you stop trying. What makes this even more absurd is the hypocrisy. Harry and Meghan have spent years talking about privacy, about being photographed without consent, about the intrusive nature of media attention. But they attended this party voluntarily. Nobody forced them to go. Nobody forced them to pose for photos. They wanted to be there. They wanted to be seen with the Kardashians. They just apparently wanted the benefits of celebrity association without any of the actual documentation of that association. Do you think Meredith Maines saw this disaster coming when she took the job, or was this the moment she realized what she'd gotten herself into? Drop your thoughts below. The Kardashian incident isn't just embarrassing. It's revealing. It shows exactly the kind of impossible position Maines and every other staffer finds themselves in when working for Harry and Meghan. You're not managing normal PR challenges. You're cleaning up messes your clients create through their own contradictory decisions and then lie about. You're being asked to maintain professional relationships with powerful people and organizations while your clients burn those bridges through entitled, irrational behavior. And here's the kicker. This happened in November. Maines resigned shortly after. Page 6 reports the Kardashian debacle was specifically the final straw. After 11 months of whatever else she had to deal with, this incident was apparently what made her decide she couldn't continue. Because forcing your publicist to call the Kardashians and demand photo deletions while lying about consent forms isn't just bad PR. It's professional humiliation. And no paycheck is worth that. Let's talk about when this news broke. Because the timing is almost as revealing as the content. Harry and Meghan announced Maine's departure in the last week of December. Not earlier in the month. Not immediately after she resigned. The last week of the year, when most major media outlets are operating on skeleton crews, when serious journalists are off for the holidays, when news cycles are at their slowest. This is classic damage control timing. Dump bad news when nobody's paying attention, hope it gets buried under holiday coverage and year-end retrospectives. They also announced that their operation had shrunk to just 2 employees at the same time. Archewell, their grand charitable foundation and production company, is now essentially defunct as an organization. 2 people. That's not a foundation. That's not a media empire. That's barely a hobby. Think about what they started with versus where they are now. They launched Archewell with massive fanfare, promising groundbreaking charitable work and innovative media content. They had funding, they had celebrity connections, they had global name recognition. And now, 5 years later, they're down to 2 employees and an 11th senior staffer just walked out the door. The fact that they tried to bury this news during the holiday week tells you everything about how they view it themselves. This isn't a routine personnel change they're comfortable announcing. This is embarrassing information they hope will get lost in the year-end chaos. This is evidence of organizational collapse they don't want examined too closely. But here's what makes it even worse. Maines isn't just leaving. She's reportedly staying on to help with the transition. Which sounds professional and cooperative until you think about what that actually means. It means she doesn't have another job lined up yet. It means despite working for a duke and duchess, despite having that credential on her resume, she apparently hasn't been able to parlay that experience into immediate new opportunities. Why? Because working for Harry and Meghan doesn't enhance your professional reputation. It damages it. Every publicist in the industry has watched 11 people take these jobs and quit. Every communications professional has seen the pattern of failed partnerships, underwhelming results, and public embarrassments. Nobody looks at Archewell on a resume and thinks that person must be talented. They think that person must be desperate or deluded. So Maines is staying on to help with the transition because she needs time to find something else. And she needs to be able to tell future employers that she handled her departure professionally, that she didn't just abandon her clients, that she maintained her standards even while extracting herself from an untenable situation. She's protecting her reputation from the damage of having worked there at all. 2025 was supposed to be Meghan's year. Remember that Instagram post at the beginning of January? Meghan running into the surf, writing 2025 in the sand, giggling and carefree. That was the vibe. This was going to be her big comeback. Her lifestyle brand would launch successfully. Her podcast would dominate. Her Netflix show would be a hit. Everything was going to come up Meghan. Instead, everything fell apart. The lifestyle brand generated mockery, not sales. The podcast barely registered. The Netflix show was largely ignored. And now her entire operation has collapsed down to 2 employees while her chief communications officer walks away citing a photo disaster with the Kardashians as the final straw. From January's optimistic beach video to December's organizational implosion. That's not just a bad year. That's a complete failure to launch. Let's be specific about what Meredith Maines was hired to accomplish and why that job was always impossible. She came from the venture capital and tech industry. Fast-paced environments where multiple projects run simultaneously, where pivoting is normal, where innovation is valued. According to the Page 6 source, she was used to handling lots of things going on at once. Which makes what happened next almost darkly funny. Because there wasn't that much going on with Harry and Meghan. Not really. Despite the frantic energy and constant publicity attempts, they weren't actually producing much. They weren't launching successful initiatives or building sustainable projects or creating meaningful content. They were just making noise. And Maine's job was to somehow make that noise sound like achievement. In her 11 months, she launched Meghan's podcast, which flopped. She launched Meghan's Netflix show, which nobody watched. She managed their charitable work, which has produced no measurable impact despite significant resources. The Page 6 source tries to spin this as accomplishment. Look at how much she did in almost a year. She launched a podcast and TV show. But launching isn't succeeding. Launching is just the beginning. And both launches failed. That's not a credential. That's a cautionary tale. Here's what Maines had to work with. 2 clients who can't accept criticism or advice. 2 clients who make impulsive decisions and then expect their staff to make those decisions look strategic. 2 clients who lie about easily disprovable things and then expect their publicist to defend those lies. 2 clients whose every project underdelivers and underperforms, but who refuse to acknowledge any pattern. How do you craft a positive narrative around that? How do you pitch stories to journalists when every past story has turned negative? How do you maintain relationships with media outlets when your clients keep contradicting their own previous statements? How do you build a brand when the brand's fundamental problem is the people running it? The answer is you can't. You do your best, you collect your paycheck, and eventually you admit defeat and leave. Which is exactly what 11 people have now done. The Page 6 source says Maines is unflappable and doesn't complain. She really enjoyed her time there, but at a certain point it's time to go. Let's decode that corporate speak. Unflappable means she maintained professionalism despite chaos. Doesn't complain means she didn't publicly criticize her employers, which is basic professional courtesy. Really enjoyed her time means absolutely nothing because everyone says that when they leave a job. And at a certain point it's time to go after less than a year means this was unsustainable and she needed to escape. Think about Maine's position during the Kardashian incident specifically. She probably advised against attending in the first place, or at least advised about the inevitable photos that would result. Her advice was ignored. Then after the photos were posted, she had to execute damage control for a problem her clients created against her counsel. Then she had to make embarrassing phone calls to the Kardashian team demanding deletions. Then she had to deal with her clients lying about consent forms, which made her look either incompetent or complicit. That's not PR work. That's being forced to participate in your own professional humiliation. And after 11 months of variations on that theme, she decided she'd had enough. Would you stay in a job where your professional advice is consistently ignored and you're repeatedly put in impossible positions? Let us know in the comments. Maine's tenure perfectly encapsulates 2025 for Harry and Meghan. Everything that was supposed to succeed failed. Every launch fizzled. Every initiative underwhelmed. Let's run through the wreckage. The lifestyle brand. American Riviera Orchard was announced with slick Instagram marketing and influencer gift baskets. Meghan sent jam to celebrities. The internet mocked it relentlessly. Months later, there's still no actual product available for purchase. No website where regular consumers can buy anything. Just an Instagram account and some gifted jam that became a punchline. That's not a brand. That's a failed launch that never progressed beyond the initial publicity attempt. And Maines had to somehow manage the narrative around that failure. How do you explain to journalists why the big lifestyle brand launch has produced exactly 0 products available for sale months after the announcement? How do you maintain credibility when the gap between the announcement and the reality is that stark? The podcast. With Lemonade Media this time, after Spotify dropped them. Meghan launched her podcast with typical grandiose framing about important conversations and elevating voices. It barely registered. No cultural impact. No widespread discussion. No evidence that anyone outside Meghan's existing fan base bothered listening. Just another project that launched with hype and disappeared without trace. The Netflix show. With Love, Meghan. A lifestyle program where Meghan would share cooking and hosting wisdom. Released with minimal promotion, received with minimal interest, and created exactly 0 cultural momentum. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's sharing clips. Nobody cares. It exists technically, but only in the sense that it's been uploaded to Netflix. It hasn't actually penetrated public consciousness in any meaningful way. And this is what Maines was hired to promote. This is what she was supposed to spin into success stories. How do you pitch positive coverage of a lifestyle brand that has no products? How do you generate interest in a podcast nobody listens to? How do you create buzz for a TV show nobody watches? The source in the Page 6 article tries to frame Maines' work as impressive. Look at everything she accomplished in 11 months. She launched these projects. But launching projects that fail isn't accomplishment. It's just expensive futility. And after 11 months of expensive futility, Maines apparently decided her professional reputation couldn't afford another year of association with that failure. Now consider the broader context. Archewell is down to 2 employees. 2. From whatever staff size they had at their peak to exactly 2 people keeping the entire operation running. That's not downsizing. That's organizational collapse. That's a foundation that exists primarily on paper, with minimal actual activity and even less actual impact. Harry and Meghan told their realtor 5 years ago they were going to flip their Montecito house and make money. 5 years later, they haven't done a single renovation. Not one upgrade. The kitchen is exactly as it was when they bought the place. Which any celebrity real estate watcher knows is bizarre. Wealthy people gut and rebuild their homes even when those homes are move-in ready. They customize. They upgrade. They make it theirs. But Harry and Meghan haven't. Which suggests they don't have the liquid capital to fund renovations. Which suggests their financial situation isn't as stable as the multi-million-dollar deals would imply. Which suggests they might not have been able to sustain Maine's salary and the rest of their staff indefinitely. Maybe Maines didn't just quit because the job was impossible. Maybe she quit because she could see the financial writing on the wall. Maybe she realized that Archewell's income wasn't matching its expenses, that the deals weren't producing sustainable revenue, that Harry and Meghan were burning through money without generating enough to maintain operations. That would explain the timing. That would explain why she's staying on for transition without having another job lined up. She needs to extract herself carefully, maintaining professionalism, while the whole operation quietly collapses around her. Here's what every one of those 11 departed staffers learned eventually. The problem isn't strategy. It isn't messaging. It isn't media relationships or public perception management. The problem is Harry and Meghan themselves. Maines came from tech and VC, industries where criticism and feedback are normal parts of operations. Where saying this approach isn't working, let's try something different is standard practice. Where pivoting based on results rather than ego is how you succeed. But that requires clients who can hear criticism, who can accept that their instincts might be wrong, who can change course when evidence suggests their current approach is failing. And according to every pattern we've seen, Harry and Meghan can't do that. They can't accept that the Kardashian incident made them look bad. Instead, they blame the Kardashians for posting photos they posed for. They can't accept that their projects are underperforming. Instead, they blame media bias or institutional resistance or public prejudice. They can't accept that driving away 11 senior staffers suggests management problems. Instead, they frame it as natural transitions and concluded work. This is the fundamental impossibility of working for them. You can't solve problems your clients won't acknowledge exist. You can't implement solutions your clients won't accept. You can't build success when every failure is externalized and every criticism is treated as disloyalty. The Page 6 source claims Maines really enjoyed her time at Archewell. But she lasted 11 months. 11. You know what enjoying a job actually looks like? Staying longer than 11 months. Building relationships. Achieving measurable results. Growing professionally within the organization. Maines did none of those things because the organization didn't allow for any of them. She launched projects that failed. She managed a brand that couldn't break through.